Hi everybody, my name is Renske Keizer. I'm a full professor in family sociology at Erasmus University, Rotterdam. But I'm also the program director of our master program, Social Inequalities. And today I'd like to tell you about the relevance and the uniqueness of our master program. Concerning the relevance, if you look around you, you see several current societal challenges, and they're all related and tied up to social inequalities. Think of the climate crisis. Think of Black Lives Matter movement, and think of COVID-19. They're all either sparked by, driven by, or they have exacerbated social inequalities in society. What's quite interesting, or quite startling actually, is that there's quite some uncertainty about how we can actually tackle inequalities. We know from scientific reports that it's much easier to improve average levels of well-being in society rather than actually reduce inequality between social groups. And this is also why reducing inequality is one of the societal sustainable developmental goals. There's consensus amongst politicians, policymakers, and scientists that in order to get a really good understanding of social inequalities and actually being able to successfully reduce them, that we need a multidisciplinary and multi-level perspective. And that is exactly what our master program brings. So first of all, we focus on the causes and consequences of social inequality. But we also focus on the social processes that actually sustain them. And we provide students with a hands-on approach. So we also provide them with information and knowledge and expertise on the ways in which social policy can actually reduce inequality. As I mentioned, our program is multidisciplinary. So we draw from insights on the social stratification literature, sociology of the family, sociology of organizations, social policy, and welfare state research. And only by doing that are we able to obtain a really comprehensive understanding of social inequalities. And again, we focus on this multi-level approach. It's not sufficient to only know about people's individual characteristics or individual behaviors. We also need to know about the meso and macro level characteristics, such as the family environment, neighborhoods, educational systems, organizational characteristics, but also about welfare policies and arrangements. Because what is so intriguing and what makes this matter so complex is that there are important interactions and interplays between these different levels. For example, by differences in welfare state policies, individual characteristic might matter much more or much less, depending on the richness of the safety nets. What does our curriculum look like? Well, at Erasmus University and at the Faculty of Social and Behavioral Sciences, master programs consist of 4 blocks of 10 weeks. And in each of these blocks, we have 2 parallel courses. With master program Social Inequality, Block 1 consists of Social Inequalities and Introduction and a methods course, Social Science Research and Practice. In Block 2, we move to the families and focus on families and inequalities. And at the same time, you can choose your own elective. In Block 3, we move to the course Governing Social Inequalities, providing you also with hands-on tools. And we start with the master thesis proposal, which is the first part of your master thesis research, really crafting up your problem definition, writing out your theoretical framework and your method section. And then in the 4th block, you have the full undivided attention for the master program execution. Let's dive a bit deeper into the 3 core courses of our master program. And the first is Social Inequalities and Introduction. So in this course, we address questions such as how unequal are societies these days? Is it getting better or is it getting worse? And we discuss inequalities along 4 axes: economic inequality, ethnic, gender, and spatial. And we draw on a broad variety of international scholarship, but also on a broad variety of different disciplines and different methodological approaches. We focus on inequalities also from an intersectional approach, and we focus our attention on the societal context in which social inequalities come about these days. The lecturer for this course is Dr. Bonnie French, and her own research focuses on race and racism in institutions. In addition to lecturers, we also have tutorials in which students get hands-on practice and skills in actually acquiring the knowledge concerning social inequalities. And these are some examples that are covered in the tutorials for social inequalities and introduction. So discuss whether and how inequalities are represented in visual arts and music, or develop a timeline of events that led to the current Black Lives Matter movement. In block 2, we move to the families and inequalities. And as you probably know, many changes have happened in the domain of family lives, focusing on smaller families, migration, changes in the division of household labor and childcare arrangements. And these have all had repercussions for how families are related to inequalities. And in this course, you focus on the role that families play in either weakening, maintaining, or strengthening social inequalities. The lecturer, one of the lecturers for this course, is Professor Dr. Pil Dijkstra. She's not only a professor of empirical sociology at our department, but she's also the deputy chief of the high-level group of scientists advising the European Cabinet. In that role, she's also really close to where policy making is coming about. What are some of the examples of the tutorial projects in this course? It's creating a photo essay that tells a story about inequalities and families in the media, or develop a policy pitch about a specific educational intervention. In the third block, we move to governing social inequalities, and we focus on different policies and institutional arrangements that are able to address social inequalities and tackle inequalities. But we also focus on the fact that many of these interventions are not successful. So we really focus in this course on the debates in science, but we also bring these debates to class and discuss with each other how we might successfully reduce inequalities. Again, we focus on 4 axes of inequalities: gender, generation and cohort, race and ethnicity, and class. One of the main lecturers for this course is Dr. Gabriele Mari, and his research focuses on parenthood, gender inequalities, labor markets, and social policy. Again, examples of tutorial projects here are build an equitable Harvard admission process, or create an infographic concerning health inequalities. As I briefly touched upon, we have different modes of education at our master program. First, we have lecturers that provide the main theoretical and empirical insights, and we have professors with rich expertise and knowledge that bring this knowledge forward. Coupled with that are small-scale tutorials, interactive tutorials in which you really obtain the knowledge and skills needed to really grasp social inequalities. And coupled with that, we have the master thesis. It's an individual project, and you're able to combine this with an internship, but you're also embedded in small subgroups of maximum 5 students. And that enables you to share insights and benefit from the knowledge of others, but it also enables you to share the trials and tribulations of conducting your master thesis research. Finally, we're a small-scale master program, but it also allows us to really strengthen the cohesion within cohorts. And this is an example of some of the activities we undertake. Finally, what are the career prospects after you have successfully completed this master program? Well, after completion, you have grasped an interdisciplinary background. You have knowledge of complex interplay between the micro, meso, and macro level of inequality. And you also have the ability to develop and evaluate public policies and interventions. But that might still be quite general. So where do our students end up? This is a brief list. So some of our students have become scientists at the National Institute of Public Health. Others have become a source and contact researcher. Others have become political assistants at the City Hall, or functional managing officers, consultants, or even youth ambassadors for sexual and reproductive health and rights. And what this signals is also that we provide and we allow students freedom in the topics of their assignments and the topics for their master thesis. So as such, of course, within the boundaries of the topic of social inequalities, you can really create your own path for future career developments. To wrap up, this master program might be the right choice for you if you are looking for an interdisciplinary perspective on social inequalities, if you'd like to focus on the causes and consequences of social inequalities from an interdisciplinary perspective. If you're looking forward to having a great team of dedicated professors. And if you prefer to have these small-scale tutorials that really provide you with in-depth knowledge. And finally, if you prefer a master thesis project. That's an individual project, but still you're being embedded in a subgroup of a maximum of 5 students. If you have any questions, this is the way how I, but also the ambassadors and our marketing, recruitment and admission agency can be reached.